Now, I want to bring it home a little more. Um, because we're focused on how things affect Black Americans. And Chloe, you went down a list of things, Civil Rights Act. And thank you for pointing out that today is the anniversary of the all important Civil Rights Act. Now, listen to me, you all. Listen, 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 listen. If the Civil Rights Act, if this super majority conservative court strikes down the Civil Rights Act, white business owners would be able to tell us once again that we cannot frequent their restaurants, their hotels. We will essentially be back on the chicken circuit, the Chitlin circuit. You know what the Chitlin circuit is? The Chitlin circuit, you probably don't know what it is either, Chloe. Do you?
I've heard of it.
Okay, the Chitlin circuit is when the R&B soul singers back in the day, the jazz, black blues singers would be on the road going from city to city. They couldn't stay in the white hotels. So they had to stay, at somebody's house or some older hotel that was owned by African Americans or sleep in the car, the buses. It's called the Chitlin circuit. Well, the only reason why the owners of Chili's, the owners of you name them, the owners of Red Lobster, the owners whom I presume are all white, the owners of any of these places, the only reason they can't say to us, no blacks allowed, is because of the Civil Rights Act. That's it. Our rights are literally protected because of laws that are on the books. This conservative majority are hostile to civil rights, including Clarence Thomas. Maybe for different reasons, but he has shown a lot of hostility to civil rights as well. So with the stroke of a pen, all conservatives got to do is get a case involving the civil rights in front of this 6 conservative majority, and they could strike it down and have tremendous impact on our lives. The Voting Rights Act, the same thing. There's a case that was just released with all these other cases this past week. I think it may have just been an order where the Louisiana legislature redid the voting map in Louisiana, leaving only one predominantly black voting district out of 6. And it's very, very incongruent with the population in Louisiana because 30% of Louisiana's population is black. Yet only one voting district, based on maps drawn by the Louisiana legislature, which is GOP controlled, is predominantly black. So they were sued, got in front of the Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court said, this court, the 6 supermajority said, it's okay. It's okay to have a map in a state that's 30% black. It's okay to have a map where there's only one predominantly black voting district, which means the other 5 will likely have white conservative politicians. So the people that blacks in Louisiana feel like would best represent them, they will not be able to have those people representing them because the United States Supreme Court feels that it's okay, feels that it's not racial unconstitutional racial gerrymandering to have that one predominantly voting black district. So states around the country will now know that we can now, in fact, Ron DeSantis, speaking of DeSantis, he did that in Florida. So now they know with this supermajority at the U.S. Supreme Court, they can draw the maps the way they want to, and this court will likely uphold them. Now, why is that able to happen? That's able to happen because in 2012, the United States Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act, which would have required Louisiana to get pre-clearance from the Justice Department before it made any changes to its voting laws. So getting rid of the gutting the Voting Rights Act the way they did back in 2012, and then did further damage to the Voting Rights Act last year, 2020, or was it Brovanovich? That was 2022? It was either 2022 or 2021, where they then came back in an opinion written by Sam Alito and gutted Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. So now these states all around the country can do whatever they want to do that will negatively impact black voting rights. Fair housing, affirmative action is all but dead. It's all but dead already. It will be killed definitely here in a little bit. There is an affirmative action case regarding college admissions that's on deck for this court to consider. One has to do with Harvard University. I think Justice Ketanji Jackson agreed that since she's a Harvard grad, she's going to sit it out. And then there's another one. Environmental racism. I mean, that is really big because if you go in most black communities, Chloe, you go into a city and the landfills and the dumps and all of that stuff are typically in the black community. And this court just recently said that the EPA has to basically get permission before it issues any kind of regulations. So anything done to try and control climate change, bad emissions, where the landfills go, all that, they first got to get approval from Congress. Well, good luck on that because Congress can't get hardly anything done, right? Education. There are education policies that would benefit African Americans that this court can't wait to sink its teeth in. This conservative supermajority court will have a very deleterious effect and impact on black Americans for years to come. Mark my word. Elections have consequences. So when people are sitting back asking, why am I going to vote? Why am I going to go through the trouble of voting? The Democrats aren't doing any good for me. The Republicans, sure enough, ain't doing any good for me. I'm going to sit it out. This doesn't really impact my life. That is the biggest lie. That's what they want you to think. You are very, 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 very mistaken. Because if you don't vote, you give them the opportunity to put these people on the federal bench on the U.S. Supreme Court. You give them the opportunity to control Congress, and these folks are not friends of African Americans. They will pass laws, policies, regulations, and so on that will benefit them and that will be disadvantageous to us. Yeah. So these are just some reasons why black Americans should be really concerned about SCOTUS.